If any of you have purchased with me in the past, then you know one of my most imperative strategies to making you successful in a crazy competitive market is using the due diligence fee. This is a commitment fee, right? But when you're on the other side of the playing field and you're selling a home, you need to be thinking about this as what really commits a buyer to going all the way to the closing table. If they throw out a crazy offer number that is really enticing to you, but they're not willing to commit with a strong due diligence fee, that shows you these buyers aren't going to stick around if a major appraisal discrepancy comes up or if major repair issues come up. That strong due diligence fee, and we're talking in this market 3,000, 5,000, on up to 8,000, 10,000. Crazy numbers are being thrown out to show commitment from buyers. But that buyer knows if they feel confident enough to put out that much money that they're going to go all the way to closing. And you as a seller can have confidence that they're not going to walk away and leave you hanging halfway through a contract if they've extended $5,000 or more, right? That shows you their commitment level. And so it's important to pair those two things together. A strong offer price is great, but a strong offer price with a really strong due diligence is excellent. It's also really important to consider your needs before you jump into a contract. Have this planned out before you ever extend your listing to the market. Do you need a fast contract closing? Are you trying to get into another house and you need the contract to close within 20 days? Or is this something that you can kind of land in the middle of the line that you're okay with 30 to 45 days because you've got time? Or do you need a long contract? Should we be thinking about things like a rent back situation where maybe you close within 30 days, but then you stay in the house for another 30 days? The good news is sellers are pretty much always in the power position when it comes to these terms. So you have a right to go back to the buyer and say, hey, I need to stay in the house a little longer because our home will not close until then. That's okay. And we can work that out with a buyer, but have that in your mind as something that you need to negotiate with the buyers as they come to the table, so it fits your timeline and your best interests. It's also super important when you're weighing different offers against each other to think through the unnecessary concessions that often get requested. You may have five offers to look at next to each other, and they all have great offer prices, strong due diligence, but then some of them are going to start throwing in that they want you, the seller, to pay for home warranties, paying for repairs, paying for concession costs, things like that. And so you want to weigh those things too. And sometimes it's good to give up a little bit to the buyer, especially when it comes to like a home warranty or something like that, up front, because then that means you have a more powerful position to negotiate after repairs, especially if you know they might find some issues in an inspection report that maybe you just didn't have the budget to fix. Well, giving them a home warranty up front if they request it actually helps you cover some of those issues and not have to concede even more. So it's important to think through those things with your agent before you ever list. Kind of take into consideration everything that would make a strong offer really important and that would make it go all the way to closing. And sometimes giving up a little bit up front is a good thing. Other times you may be in such a strategic, strong position with the type of house that you're selling that you don't even need to concede anything. And so you'll want to weigh that in offers too. If someone is requesting you to concede several $1,000s at contract, even though they're giving you a very strong offer, you have to start to kind of wonder, why are they asking this? Do they not have enough cash on hand in order to make the transaction work? Those concessions are telltale signs of some weaknesses with the buyer. And so we want to keep our eyes open and realize what is going on in this offer and why should I choose this one versus this one. So that was a really quick overview just of where your head should be at as sellers versus where you were maybe as a buyer for the first time. It really is a different animal, but I wanted you to kind of see some of those differences up front so we know how to discuss them in more depth as we go on. The next thing that I want to jump into is the differences between agency when it comes to buyer agency agreements and listing agency agreements. There is a lot to talk about here that maybe you weren't aware of when you first work with a real estate agent. So I want to make sure these are transparent and understood before you jump into this relationship. The biggest change you're going to run into right off the bat is that now you have a lot more costs associated with listing a home. This is the way it's structured in North Carolina, Whereas you remember when you were buying a home, the buyer's agent is almost always getting paid by the listing agent to cover their commission. So you don't pay a buyer agent anything. Well, on the listing side of things, when you're selling a home, now you are the one that is responsible for paying the agents that will both help you list the home and will also be bringing a buyer to purchase the home. So it's important to know those costs up front and understand how it affects your net and what you're actually going to walk away with at the end of the day. One of the biggest differences when it comes to agency and understanding how that works on the listing side of things, right off the bat, is going to be your cost. When you were working with a buyer agent, in almost 99% of the cases, you don't pay the buyer agent anything. That comes from the listing agent's commission that is being paid by the seller. Well, congratulations, now you're on the selling side, and you need to be thinking about those costs ahead of time so you know how it affects your net. And those are going to include things like the listing agent's commission, the buyer agent's commission, who's bringing you a buyer to purchase your house, and maybe even some marketing costs that get thrown into that, depending on what you want to be done to market your home. It seems like the common conversation I'm always having with people is, man, it is so expensive to sell a home. And the truth is, yeah, it is pretty expensive to sell a home. And there's a good reason for that. You're not just paying one agent, right? You're paying two, technically, to represent this sale, which is why the price gets jacked up really high. We're talking between 5 and 6% of your sales price. Now, the big benefit is you didn't have to pay that when you purchased the house, right? That was paid for you. So you're kind of making up for a loss on the sale side that you weren't even thinking about on the buy side. But at the same time, listing homes costs a lot of money. We're working with an MLS that is contained with thousands of agents in our area. That this is their livelihood, and they're working with buyers to help them find the perfect house, and they're fighting for their buyers and they're working really hard to get them in. Well, they are owed something for their efforts. And this is how in North Carolina has structured them to get paid is by the seller. And at the same time, you have a listing agent that's working their tail off for you. They're getting all their marketing efforts together. They're getting you just plastered on every website they can, out there with video content, pictures, all this kind of stuff. And then on the other side of going active, they're negotiating offers, repairs, all these things to get you all the way to closing. So it is expensive, but understand it's coming from a perspective that you have a lot of help on your side, and you're also covering the costs of the buyer side in this process. The next question is always, well, is it worth it? Why can't I just put up some pictures and throw it online and do it myself? Well, the reality is you can, and you might be successful, but there's a scary side to that too, and that you may be risking not actually being aware of what your home is worth. And you could lose value because you don't have a professional guiding you through that process. Also, you're going to have a lot less competition because you're marketing as a for sale by owner. Whereas if you went to the MLS system with an actual listing agent, you're going to be getting the most competition possible to give your house the highest sales price possible. So it could theoretically work out to your benefit if you tried to list yourself, but the odds are not really in your favor because you're marketing to a much smaller group of buyers that are able to do that. They're going to be trying to get a buyer agent commission from you anyways because they probably have an agent working for them for free. So you've already guaranteed to pay out that part regardless. But then you're also losing a huge pool of potential buyers for your home that can create the highest price. So it may even out to pay those costs because you get a higher price in the end. And remember that a great agent can do a lot for you. A good listing agent can help you assess your costs up front, help you understand the upgrades and the things you need to do to make your home ultra desirable. They are professional marketers, so they can actually do the right things to make your home look fantastic and distribute that to a wide audience because they have licenses and ways that they can do that. And then, of course, they're there to negotiate through repairs, to fight for you, to make sure you get the absolute top dollar at the end of the day. So, really, a good agent is worth their money in the end. It might cost you some money, but they're going to earn you more money as a result. At Love It Properties, we love to work with past clients, and it's always a fun process to help someone sell a home that you helped them buy a few years before, and then get them into the next great home. And the reason I bring that up is because it's important that you understand at Love It Properties, we're always going to discount for past clients that are using us again. We want to help keep your costs low, especially if we're going to help you buy. We'll discount even further. And really, that is because we care about working with our clients again and again. And so, if you come to us and say, yes, I want to sell my home. What do we need to do? What are the costs going to look like? It's going to be completely transparent for you. We're going to help you understand everything that goes into it. No secrets, no surprise costs. And I guarantee it's going to be one of the best rates you can get throughout this entire area. One last thing that's really important to mention, in terms of the differences between a buyer's agent and a listing agent, is that you should be aware that your listing agent is going to probably be spending a lot of their own money to get your home marketed. It comes out of their commission, yeah, that they'll earn once you close on the house, but ultimately they're going to be investing in that before they ever get to the closing table, right? And the reason I bring that up is because a lot of sellers will get into the process and they'll go, oh, you know what? Never mind. I think I changed my mind. Maybe I'll do this a different time. Maybe I'll wait for later. Market's not going the way I thought it would. Well, all I'm saying is it's really good to be in communication with your agent about those feelings and those thoughts, because realistically, they might be spending, $1,000 or more in marketing costs to get your listing ready. And if you decide, never mind, I don't want to do it, well, they're on the hook for those costs, and you might even be liable for those costs depending on how the agent has structured their commission and their agency agreement. So be aware, you are creating costs right off the bat. You will pay them back with your commission at the end of the day, but that's definitely something to consider. Communicate well with your agent. Let them know what you're feeling and what you're thinking. If you're thinking about changing your mind and not doing this, to make the relationship really strong throughout the whole process. In the event that a listing agent brings you a willing and able buyer that matches the terms that you put out there that you want to sell your home, that listing agent has earned their commission technically by the law, by the way that we structure this agency situation. So it's important for you to realize that once that offer is in hand, that they have brought you that offer, they have earned their commission. And if you decide to walk away from that, there is a reality that the listing agent can actually retrieve that commission from you because they've done that job. So be very committed when you jump into this situation. Understand that you're not going to be able to back out as easily as you were before as a buyer, right? You're not just committed to the buyer that you're agreeing the contract to. You're also committed to your listing agent who is serving you and trying to do the best job to get this thing sold. So that was our introduction to first-time home selling. We covered the subjects of agency and how that's different in selling a home. And then we also covered the subject of costs and how that's very different when you sell a home versus buying a home. Up next, we're going to be doing a video that talks all about preparing your listing, what it takes to be super successful in this market. We're going to get into the tips and tricks that I've learned in this crazy, chaotic, competitive market to make you be able to sell your home for the highest dollar and walk out feeling like you are an all-star in selling your home for the very first time. So stay tuned. It's going to be a great video coming up really soon. Thank you guys for watching this. If you love this content, if it's helpful, please like and share to even maybe friends and family that are thinking about selling. We'd love for them to get this information into their hands so that they know how to be successful too.